Today we're visiting the Parador de la Granja, literally translated the Parador of the farm, in the town of San Illdefonso. We're about 1 hour north of Madrid and near Segovia. You arrive through these magnificent gates into an impressive tree-lined avenue. The Palace de la Granja is at the end of this. We'll walk up there later today. Firstly, we need to navigate our way through part of the old town and find somewhere to park near the hotel. It's a very pretty little town. The hotel is part of the Sitio del Real, the royal site. The building was originally El Palacio de los Infantes, the Palace of the Infants. It was built around 1770 by Charles III for his two sons, Prince Gabriel and Prince Antonio. I think we've all had those days where we wish the kids had their own house down the road. Well, King Charles III actually did it. He built this massive residence specifically to house his sons, just far enough away that he didn't have to hear them practicing their Latin or sword fighting, but close enough to make sure they weren't getting into too much trouble. The original palace was destroyed by fire in 1984 and then rebuilt as a Parador hotel, which opened in 2007. The reception area is quite simply appointed, but there are these statues looking down on you. I understand they represent the two princes. Through there is the cafe and bar area. All the corridors run alongside these covered courtyards. There are 3 in total. Below us here is the restaurant which they serve breakfast. We were surprised by the size of this suite. It was huge and impressive. It had a hall, lounge, dressing room, bedroom and bathroom. If you had an apartment this size and well appointed, you wouldn't complain. It was nicely furnished with a mixture of antique and modern furniture. This was a nice touch, a handwritten welcome note and homemade chocolates with fresh strawberries. They didn't last long. There was this separate seating area to watch TV and the usual kettle and coffee machine. You then go through to this large dressing room with wardrobes either side. In one of these is the safe. Then through to the bedroom. A simply decorated room, but very nice with a luxury feel. Having started to notice the little detail of the P on the sheets, this was a bit disappointing. P's the wrong way around. The suite had a large bathroom, modern, fitted to a high standard. It had a spa bath, which I didn't try, and a separate shower. The toilet and bidet are behind the glassed off area. As I said, this suite is large enough to live in. I would put a small kitchen area at that end and it'd be ready to go. There was an interesting selection of art on the walls. Didn't quite work out what they all were. We have the usual fridge and minibar selection. We couldn't work out who this guy was even after a Google search. The room had 2 Juliet balconies which you could step out on. You look out on this tree-lined avenue, which I'm sure is more impressive once the trees come into leaf. Still nice to see one here in March. This is the second of the courtyards, a simple area with this small pool, plants and a few benches to sit and relax on. Then the courtyard we looked down on before, where breakfast is served. The third courtyard is the spa area. We didn't go into this area, but from above it looked nice. We picked up this map from reception. We are here and the Palacio de la Granja is here. It's about a 10-minute walk. We're going to walk up there and have a wander around the gardens. We've left it too late today to visit inside the palace, but it is open to the public. The Spanish royalty had always had castles and palaces in the Segovia area. It's a beautiful part of the country and was good for hunting, but it was King Philip V who fell in love with San Illdefonso. So in 1720 he bought the farm here and built a palace on the land. King Philip V was the grandson of the French King Louis XIV, and he had been raised in the French court in Versailles. So he set about recreating a mini Versailles with grand gardens and fountains. We headed up the hill to this man-made reservoir which collected the rain off the mountains behind and then fed the 26 fountains. The fountains certainly have seen better days, and none were working when we visited. They were doing some work on some of them in front of the palace, and I understand they only have them all working twice a year, on the feast days of San Ferdinando and San Luis. The hotel looks really attractive lit up at night. As do the internal courtyards. The bar is quite simple but comfortable, and we enjoyed our complimentary glass of wine. We then headed down this fabulous staircase to the restaurant. The restaurant has these impressive vaulted ceilings and is the usual quite formal space you find in most of the Parador restaurants. We had a lovely meal here. I realised I must start taking some pictures of the food and adding them to the videos. We've spent a great night here at the Parador de la Granja, literally translated Parador of the farm. This hotel is fairly impressive, even though it was an old building. Apparently the whole place burnt down in 1984, completely rebuilt and opened as a Parador hotel in 2007. It's mad to think this whole place was built as a palace for 2 children. It's the Palacio de los Infantes, the Palace of the Children. Fairly spoiled, I think. But the whole complex here is amazing. You're in a whole, come through a gated entrance, all sort of purpose-built areas which I assume were staff quarters, stables, and then you've got the palace itself and the gardens. It's about an hour north of Madrid. Pretty impressive, really. We wouldn't normally have a room like this. This is a suite, so it's huge. Never had a room this big. This was one of our freebies. As I said, I've said before, if you're going to start staying at Paradors, join their frequent traveller programme. I think it's called the Amigos, or Friends of the Paradors. And you rack up the points quite quickly. So this one, we had enough points for this one after I think only staying in 3 hotels. So in this case we had paid for 3 nights and got 1 free. So definitely worth joining the Amigos program. Yeah, highly recommend coming to visit this if you're in the area around Madrid. Even if you don't have a night here, well worth a trip out to have a look at this whole complex. We're about 10 kilometres west of Segovia. Segovia is obviously a very popular place, tourist place. There's also a Parador there, which we'll stay one day. And on our way now, we're heading up north, and we'll just go and have a look around Segovia. So hopefully I'll put a few clips of that on as well. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like or share or subscribe. Hasta próxima.